INXS Access All Areas, episode 222. Or as that famous cricket commentator would say, Richie Benno B, 222.
I like it.
I'm going to dispense with formal introduction, just say, hello, how are you? Welcome back. Good to see your face again. We spoke to Philip Mortlock last week and we got a little extra nugget or two today, so happy to do that.
Yes, can't wait. This is going to be a big one, so I think we'll have to keep our talk short and sweet because I think this is going to go for a good hour and a half.
Look, for those who are probably hearing this second and obviously maybe you've had a chance to listen to the first one, I do know that we had a lot of fun chatting to Philip. He's always a world of interesting thoughts and dialogue. What was your sort of takeaway from last week?
Well, it was interesting at the very beginning when he told us that he's doing some work still and working in his studio. He's called in his studio actually, with Split Ends. Yeah, that was really cool. We've got some more gossip at the end of this week's as well, which I did see come up on the TV. I was like, oh my goodness, we heard that first here. So yeah, yes. So won't say too much about that. But yes. He was hands-on, wasn't he, for a very, very long time. And her other episodes were good as well because he told us a few stories of when he went and met them in New York and things like that, which was cool.
And to think that just at the drop of sort of a moment in time, he stood up, went away from the computer and then brought over the Decadence or sort of catalogue thing that he still had at arm's reach, some 40 years later.
Yes, I need to post those. I will post those tonight.
Yep. What have I reminded you of? What are you posting?
Of what Philip showed us.
Oh, not physically posting, but posting online, right?
Oh, you want me to post it?
No.
You want a Prezi.
Hey, listen, our budget goes to the Australian Post at the moment for about posting you do. So I was thinking you were going down to the letterbox, but I was thinking, did you snare a Decadence that I didn't get?
No, I didn't. No.
But anyway, yeah, look, obviously we'll let the listeners who are checking today's episode to speak for yourself. When you listen to part 2, obviously we've got a further extension of the music business, which found quite enjoyable, just getting his insights, how modern music and how it's marketed compared to the old days, maybe.
That was very interesting.
All right. Now, across your desk, you're always a hub of INXS stuff coming through your sort of vortex there. Tell us anything that you can share with the listeners.
Well, I suppose I had a little chat with Kirk in the week. Okay. Which is probably the only thing that I've done in excessive. And he has sent us a little recording that we'll put into the show later. So listen out for that, everybody.
Now, I just have to alert a very famous ex-surfer, Elaine Beachley. There's no threat there. I know B has got Kirk as her Facebook saving post. Her picture now, not her dear husband, but she's got a picture of herself and Kirk. Lane, she's just a fan. I'm just letting you know.
I'm very far away, though. Don't worry.
That's right.
I do know where you live.
Yeah. And anything else sort of come across? I mean, we've obviously a lot of patrons out there. I know on a sort of a sideline note, we've had a fantastic sort of GoFundMe page set up for Lisa Mack, and she put a little video of thank you out, I think, last week to everybody as well. That's ticking along nicely.
Yes, we're up to 34,000 now. So thank you very much, everybody. Everyone just dug a little bit deeper. So that's awesome. Thank you so much. It's really going to help Lisa a lot. And I told you that the drugs are working from last week as well.
Excellent. Well, we are a community. We are a community of patrons, a community of listeners and subscribers. If you are a regular subscriber and listener but aren't a patron, join the team, become part of the inner sanctum. I think we look back to our famous birthday, our 5th birthday party, B, and our future party, the Rock Hall of Fame, and we want more patrons being part of this juggernaut and this movement. So for the cost of a cup of coffee or 2 or 3, you can be part of something unique. But like we do, let's...
Been watching our socials, you would have seen that we did a post of Rockin' the Royals. It was the King's birthday, wasn't it? So we had a day off as Aussies. And yeah, so I found some footage of Michael talking and when he says hello out there to everybody. So I hope you all enjoyed that.
It's not always nice hearing his spoken word, etc. there. And I guess the benefit of being an entertainer, we do have lots and lots of audio and visual of Michael to keep his memory alive. But we won't go too much into what the topic is. People know what it is from what we spoke about earlier today, but we're going to sneak in a little jam-packed news, but introduced by someone very, very unique and different. What's it time for then?
It's time for the news.
Hi there, this is Kirk, and you're listening to INXS Access All Areas podcast with Hayden and B. And now, it's time for the news.
Well, thank you, Kirk. Always great to be welcomed to a new section for your very own band. Now, B, in light of obviously a busy week, I don't have a jam-packed news section this week, but there are a few little sort of anecdotes and a few little sort of references that are in the INXS world I wanted to share. First of all, we had, I think, John Farris appear on a podcast or a radio interview, at least in the UK last week. Did you hear much about that, B? It was on Greatest Hits Radio.
I haven't heard it, but I heard of it. Yes. So did you get to listen?
Look, I've downloaded it on my phone. It's on my things to do list. I think it's with the lady called Jackie Brambles, and it's called Great Conversations with Jackie Brambles. And obviously, I think people like Joe Robbins, I think, has posted it on Hutch Nation and various other outlets there. So it is something I'm looking forward to get to. I have a week list of podcasts. I'm adding that one to the list.
Did you listen to the one that I sent you as well?
Remind me.
The Money Trench one.
I think it's on my list to look at this particular week too.
Yeah, that was really interesting. Like what we're doing this week of going into the music industry. A lady called Kim, I can't say her name, Frankie Witch or something like that.
Right.
She is from New South Wales originally at the age of 17, got into the music business, and her mentor was Chris Murphy. So it was really, really, really interesting.
Yes.
And it just glows about our Chris. So yeah, I found it very, very interesting, and I think you would too.
Yeah. Well, continuing a lot of the media reports, particularly with the Listen Like These reissued, there's some great articles out. Probably our last remaining national retailer of music is a company called JB Hi-Fi, as my nephew used to call it, High Five. It's JB Hi-Fi. And there's Stack magazine, which is sort of a free publication you get when you walk in. It's always literally stacked within sort of a carrier on the outside of the stores. You pick them up as you go. But Stack Magazine's got a big feature article on Listen Like These, the 40th anniversary. So I've got that sort of downloaded at least at the moment. Looking forward to reading that. I think I might have even forwarded that to our INXS community. So have a look on those if you haven't seen it. Also, too, I think Goldmine, the music collectors, have got another feature article that Matthew Marsland posted, the famous MM, which is going around a lot of the socials. But if you go to Goldmine, the music collectors, there's a feature sort of one on INXS as well that goes back in time. Also, 2B, I on Facebook the other day saw, and Matthew again, he's been very prolific this week, posted some great little pictures and articles and press stuff with INXS supporting the Go-Go's. Oh, yeah. And I'm looking at that in front of me now, and there's some great photos of Michael and Belinda, and they look very cute together and very, very happy. I do know that in the last few weeks, I sent a message to Belinda Carlisle on her Facebook site, and she responded. Yes. Now, I haven't done the formal interview request
sure
yet.
It's the real one.
It is, because
fantastic.
It's got the blue tick, and I can tell the difference between official and a fake AI. I might have commented about the great picture that she put on her thing there, and she liked a compliment because it was. She's nearly might be 61 to 70, I think. She still looks fantastic, but I think she might be touring and things soon. So, look, again, there's some great stuff that Matthew's put out. I know we've shared a bit on our socials as well, and it goes back to those tour. And I think she's on our bucket list to get an interview with, because the Go-Go's and INXS had a very famous tour, and they took INXS under their wing around a very formative time. And hopefully that might be a secret sealed section, episode B. But she was.
Was there 6 in the band?
Yeah, I think there was 5 in the Go-Go's.
5. Oh, right. So there was one for each boy there.
Well, you know, you don't always need to be one for one, do you? You must leave it at that.
I heard that, our Nick Egan went to see her in concert last year, and he said she was amazing and looked amazing.
Right. Yeah. So, but look, there was just a great little post with that on there, and I wanted to sort of alert people to that if they haven't seen it. The other one too, it's funny what pops up on Facebook, etc. there, but I'm sure it's not AI, but there was a completely non-INXS thing, although it's a tenuous link. Good old Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols,
yes,
who happened to, in his book, write a bit about Michael in the book and how Pill were on a support leg with INXS back in '88. And said Michael was, really friendly and they got on well and things. But I swear I've got something where Johnny Rotten's on Judge Duty.
I got that as well.
You did see that? Now, I've got to watch it. Who knows if it's deep fake or whatever there, but I've saved it, etc. there. If anyone can confirm or deny.
So funny.
I mean, the master snob of punk being on Judge Duty, being yelled at, and him having a
drummer.
Yeah, well, I've got to read it too, but listen, full marks, even if it is unreal, full marks
so
for
funny. Oh, so you haven't watched it?
I haven't watched it all yet, so you probably
okay. I'll be quiet.
It did look rather humorous at this particular stage, So from that sort of point of view, we'll watch it and then have a chance to, confirm if I think it's real or not. But sometimes there are little indicators that give these things away, aren't they? So, from that particular sort of point of view, that's been, there was an interesting sort of one there. Kudos to Gary. I know Gary's been posting a little bit lately, with these bases and a couple of musicians there buying and things, but he put a great sort of post out on GGB bases on the 31st of May, just breaking down a lot of stuff about Listen Like Thieves album, etc. there, and, part of that, and he's done some press and things as well. And as mentioned last week, the albums that have been charting quite strong in the UK, still trying to decipher these charts of actually which one's what and things like that. But if you haven't bought a hard copy yet from a store, do so, or whatever. If you have just downloaded it, do so. But we have had a lot of friends and people within our community share their vinyl editions and their purchases and things like that. I've got a relatively new car at the moment, and I went to go put the CD in the other day, and typical me, modern day car doesn't actually have a CD player in it. So I'm struggling to put my CD version in versus my downloaded version. I'm a bit old school,
Surely you can just do your downloaded version for it.
Yeah, I know. But I had the CD in the car and I was like, oh, I should put this thing on. And, I wanted to go old school. But yeah, so if you haven't got a copy yet or download the album yet, come on, let's keep this thing in the charts. Let's give it the prominence it deserves. And particularly in light of our recent episode on the Royal Albert Hall, there's lots of little left turns and right turns that are different from what you've experienced.
Can't wait to get into it a bit more, actually, after all this.
Yes, and the last thing we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, there was an INXS listening party in Melbourne, in Richmond, for the new re-release. If anybody was part of that or went to that, or know somebody who was part of that experience, we'd love to hear from you because, I think it would have been fun to go to. At that particular point in time, I couldn't go that night, but it would be fun to know what somebody got out of a listening party experience. What was the vibe? How did they do it? Did they play the two albums together? Was there someone talking about it? It'd be just great to hear what people got
How
out
it
of it.
went, yeah. How it went.
Correct. Lee, that's time. Well,
What about JD? JD's released his tickets. Have you got yours?
Still working on it, Lee. Working on the interview at the moment. The re sent our email.
Oh, yeah, you've got to do that. So I think he's got about 3 or 4 nights in Victoria.
He does, yes. So he's got 3 or 4 nights, and I've got to pick the best night and the best location. And I think
you're only going to go to one. Come on, Hayden. You're such a powerful. Come on.
Yeah.
You've got to go support him.
I probably saw JD sing with INXS at least 12 times.
Ooh.
So
You've got to get over. You can't go 13, can you? So you've got to go 14.
Well, there you go. The itch has been scratched, but I think this particular time around will be good. And what sort of took me a little bit when I was looking at him doing some press, he was actually, as I said the other week, did an interview with, I think, Channel 7 or Channel 9.
In the morning show,
Channel
yeah.
7.
Oh, great.
Just how much older he looked, but not like old as in aging badly. I just remember JD's being this young 30-year-old, fresh-faced and things like that. And he looks healthy, he looks well, he looks handsome and
he looks like a man now. He's not a boy anymore.
Yeah, but he's talking, with wisdom and perspective, and he's definitely matured. So, but it was just weird, quite not seeing him in any formal interview for probably a better part of 15 years. Just the striking difference, albeit he still looks like JD. But all right, people, we're very lucky to have Philip Morlock for part 2 today of our really deep dive into all things INXS and just the music industry and Philip's career. Phil, we're going to move into the Listen Like Thieves reissue now. And look, thanks for coming back on.
Obviously I was approached many months ago, probably even a year ago, when they were starting to sort of put the whole thing together, and I sort of went digging, looking for photographs that I had buried. I mean, in fact, they couldn't find the original cover photograph that I used, and I didn't have a copy of it. I mean, unfortunately, back in those days, you'd sort of take a bunch of transparencies, go and get them scanned, and then they popped in an envelope and put it in somebody's drawer. And so there's a whole lot of stuff that unfortunately I've lost along the way. So I was involved in the process of certainly from the visual aspect of things, and I knew that they had engaged a graphic artist in Los Angeles to basically do a reboot of the cover, and I provided what I could find and let them do what they wanted to do, and like the sound of the record, which has kind of been refreshed. I kind of like the idea that they've done a refresh of the album cover. The only thing that I don't really like very much is the Listen Like Thieves down the bottom on the front. I think it's too small and it's just a bit fuzzy. Okay. But apart from that, I think they've done a terrific job. That front cover image was a very, very simple idea. It was basically, let's just have the band's name fill the whole front cover, and then find a clever way to sort of incorporate some imagery in there, so it's just not black and white or anything like that. So I don't think they stray too far from what our original concept was there. They've retained that. And then they've just moved everything around inside. The booklet is terrific because they've got lots of really interesting material in there. And they've got, Kirk's notebooks, and, it's really well done. And I've read the copy, and it's a delight, especially for fans of that original album, to sort of get, as I'm sure you're experiencing, to get that insight. Mm-hmm. The sound of it is fantastic. I don't have a problem with remixing, and if you don't like what they've done, the original still exists.
Yes, exactly.
I was, working very, very closely together. When they did, do those takes, it was like they were right on. And also hearing the live recording from Royal Albert Hall was great because it gives you a sense of just how fucking amazing they were at the live band.
It's just great, all the different layers they put in with the demos and, like you say, and Kirk's diary in the booklet. Yeah, the demos, amazing.
I think management is going to be commended on this particular one. Obviously, over the last 5 or 6 years, they've had a few kick reissues and a couple of other albums and things like that sort of come and go, but it feels like this has been a far more measured, strategic, planned out, thought out extravaganza. Like, a lot's gone into it, not just with what Giles has done, the re-recording, but the creative side, the artwork side. It feels very, very planned. And
I agree. And yeah, Sam Evans, who's been working on it for all this time, and I've been communicating with her. She's been very dedicated and consultative with the band once again, and I think they've done a great job. I'm just I mean, I haven't even asked her, but I'm just hoping that they will go back and do the swing, because I think they should do the same with that. They've sort of skipped that. They did Shabu Shabara a couple of years ago, and now they've done.
Yeah, they asked Mark to go back and remaster the US Festival sort of 9-track thing, didn't they? And and sort of reissue that, and then they did sort of some tacit sort of blue pink version of the swing on vinyl, but it wasn't anything worth it wasn't like this where it was measured and strategic. And
This is
Well, it was
very
interesting.
well
Yeah.
put together. Mm.
Hearing you talking about how the swing was all over radio and all that sort of thing, not just the singles but the album tracks, I mean, that coincided with the introduction of and the big push for FM radio, album orientated radio to sort of be the new thing. So it was good timing for bands like INXS to come along and get that kind of broader exposure with their album.
And you think about the time frames. I mean, the swing only came out in around about March, April of sort of '84. The original sin had come out the Christmas before, but you fast forward to September '85. I think it was when What You Need came out. I mean, they really went back to back to back with all the singles and Pick a Dance. There was no real gap. It was very Beatles-esque, wasn't it? One thing rolling into the next.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm hoping that they will do a big number on the swing, because there's a lot of depth to it, and I mean, the thing that I'm conscious of these days is a lot of people, when they discover an artist, whether it be the Beatles or Queen or Elton John or INXS or whatever, they gravitate towards greatest hits, so they don't necessarily go down
Albums.
the path of listening to. And I do think that's probably something that a lot of people are missing out on. Even genuine music fans of artists don't really know how much artists and bands have done. Those tracks you mentioned, Johnson's Aeroplane. I mean, Burn for You is just gets me every time.
One of Hayden's favourites.
What I say, there's so many great songs on that album, and so it's I mean, the same can be said with like these.
I think it's our generation, though, the Gen Xers. We want that tactile start. We want it back again. We want to rediscover our youth, don't we? We're a very lucky generation for that.
We are, and it's hard to know, being of that generation, whether that's still something that occurs in this day and age. I mean, obviously, we'll look at our kids and see what they're getting into. I mean, the great thing, still being very active in the music business and working with people of all generations, even though I'm an old fart, is that I can see that when people genuinely do get into music, they don't necessarily discriminate because of age or because of genre these days. And I'm big on this at the moment. The 2 Gs, generations and genres, seem to be white. It's like if people hear something and they like it, they don't care whether it's branded as being metal or Americana or rock or pop or whatever. It's just, I like it or I don't like it. And then if you say, well, this is a record that came out 40 years ago, they say, yeah, but it's good, isn't it? Don't like it.
I've got 2 teenage kids, and they don't look at that either. They just go, I like it or I don't like it. It could be AC/DC, it could be Olivia Newton-John, it could be NMM, it could be from any era. It's all about if they like it and if they're not. But what I was thinking is, why don't we have a countdown on the TV anymore?
Oh, tell me about it. Well,
we need that.
Yeah, we do. But the irony is,
for us, as our old generation, never mind the kids.
But we don't spend the money. Yeah, the kids are the ones that spend the money.
Yeah, but we're the ones sitting at home watching the TV.
Yeah,
they'll put adverts in there for us. Do you know what I mean? Why isn't it there for our generation? I'm at home. I'm not going out. I'd watch it.
Look, let's not go there, because the funny thing is that, like, I can't tell you the last time I watched free-to-air television. I don't watch anything free-to-air anymore. I only watch it when I want to watch it.
Because you have to get through the adverts. Yeah.
Well, there's that, but it's also when I feel like I want to watch, a movie or a TV series or, even the news or whatever, I can just go to an iView or an On Demand or Apple or I don't need to sit there and wait for Countdown to start at 6:00 on a Sunday night.
But it doesn't have to be that, does it? It could be on demand.
What we did, we grew up with appointment viewing. Someone else told us this is the appointment time that you'll be watching this, and because we had 4 channels, everybody would, who liked something similar would all watch it at the same time. That was just the culture of our.
It's like a listening party, isn't it?
There you go.
Yes, and it was. That's the point. Is that Countdown was on ABC television, so no ads. It went to air at 6:00 on a Sunday night.
Perfect time.
Yeah, it went for 55 minutes because they had some, I don't know, weather show or something at 5 to 7 that had to go to air. and so you imagine it's Sunday night. The entire family sits around the television or is sitting with their dinner on their laps. So that's, kids and grandmas all sitting together watching the same thing. So
Yes.
yeah, no wonder.
And it was new releases, and you didn't know what was coming. It was excitement. You never know. And then, like you said, the chart positions at the very end as well. Oh,
You
bring
could
it back. Come on,
you could
Philip.
put
You
out-
got out.
Yeah, you could put out a new song by INXS on a Friday. You could have them appear, or the video appear on Sunday night on Countdown, and you could see the immediate effect that has on the Monday.
Yes.
It would. I mean, obviously, you couldn't monitor the data like we can now, but you would have record stores literally calling up saying, "We need 50 more copies."
An interesting point that you made me think about is just this notion of, just that in itself. It was a very regimented and very predictable, probably metric. You have your show, you have your sales figures the next day, and you get your traction because you've got such a captive audience all listening and watching at the same time. We're now seeing bands, particularly with strong songs, strong, back catalogues that probably have production values that haven't aged. Like I look at say a Kate Bush, she had such a breakthrough re-emerging hit with Running Up That Hill in the show Stranger Things. Now, the production values of that song, still sound quite vital and fresh 40 years later, but it became a hit for the younger generation a couple of years ago again, because they saw that song in a TV show, a show that they all liked. It was a zeitgeist program.
Which shows you that TV still works then,
Well, it
doesn't it?
does. But I just thought, I love Philip's view on those things, how bands are having to get creative and artists these days where they needle drop certain material to get the maximum earballs or eyeballs,
Look, I mean, I deal with this every day because I've got a large roster of artists that are putting out music all the time. So I'm sort of at the coalface, as it were. I certainly don't want any artists that I work with to be obsessed about charts and airplay and things like that. Obviously, we all want it, but I prefer the artists to be focused on their creativity and to be doing what they want to do because they want to do it, not because they're going to get eyeballs or ears listening to it. And I believe this more than ever. I mean, I'd often say this in meetings when I was back in the Warner's days. It's like we've got to give this a go because it's something different. Whereas there was this sort of conformity throughout the business where it's like, well, we need to find, this is what they're into now, punk or this or that, disco or whatever. We need more of that. And I'm saying, well, no, not everybody's into that. It's not a one music genre stream that we're dealing with. And to his credit, Meldrum was a good judge of that. He would take chances. He would throw things on television that people would go, what? I think the best example of that is Plastic Patron, French artist that had a song called, what was it called?
Yeah.
But there's many other examples, and there's lots of one-hit wonders that happen like that. But that's because it sounded so different to everything else that was going on, and also it had a certain sort of novelty value to it, I guess.
It's quite like the British
made it
had
jump.
the British had John Peel, and he used to be like a radio disc jockey, and he would play stuff that was pretty much out there.
Yeah, John Peel's a tastemaker, and we now have lots of people on the internet, that are sort of tastemakers and so forth, but none with that sort of broad appeal that John Peel, pardon the pun, had. He was on BBC Radio, once again, a commercial-free radio show where he could just play whatever he wanted. And so people started to learn that, like, what he plays, I like.
You're all loving this, aren't you? I bet you are. I just know you are.
What I was going to say about INXS and breaking out into the world, I don't know whether you saw it, but I posted about Facebook page that I have, which is called Where Are We Are Now. And I find things and I share them, and this is the great thing about social media is that you can actually, it can be used for good. Apart from all the colleagues and friends of mine from that era that are sort of happy to see things that they were a part of or, have a strong association with or whatever. But I posted a review of Listen Like Thieves from the New Musical Express.
Yes.
I don't know whether you've read it or not, but it's a shocker. The writer obviously sat down to, make the most scathing review of Listen Like Thieves that he could. And he did a very good job of it too. And that reflected a lot of what the British music media thought of INXS. Like they're chasing the dollar, they're going after the big American market, they've got their fancy videos on MTV, they're not artistic, they're not credible. They're just some Aussie rock band that's trying to be, the next big thing. And INXS suffered that kind of attitude from a lot of British media, British music media, up until Kick. Kick was unstoppable, like it just had, like, every song was a hit. And then they toured the world and they ended up playing, Wembley to a sold-out crowd. When INXS finally conquered the UK, it was like, you can take your review and shove it.
Need You Tonight, not only was that rebuffed initially in the UK charts, it got re-released almost out of vengeance by management, because it had gone number one around the world and only number 50 in the UK, but they re-released in the UK, went number 2. So eventually the fans overtook some of the so-called musical press that would damn INXS quite a bit.
They eventually found their champions and, it turned the tide. But this was the thing. I mean, the UK has always been a tastemaker market, It's great music has come out of the UK, but they've also been, if you can conquer the UK, you can conquer the world kind of thing. Certainly from an Australian perspective, it was always like the holy grail. I don't know whether that's still the case.
Well, if you think of some of the European bands and the UK bands, I mean, by them being in the home base of that big market, England, the UK, whatever, there was such a decided advantage in terms of probably the record companies giving them a shot in America, wasn't there? Because of maybe the platform of sales or revenue that was coming in from some sort of modicum of success they had there. So if you think of, the Simple Minds and U2 and Echo and the Bunnymen and some of those bands, their European success seemed to springboard into America a bit more easily than, say, the Australian bands got.
The American music market is the toughest market in the world because notoriously corrupt. You had to have a lot of money and a lot of support to crack the American radio scene. It meant everything. And so there was a lot of payola and a lot of jockeying for position in America. So if you had a song that came into the Billboard chart at number 86 and then it went to number 85 the next week, they'd go, well, it's over. They pull the plug and pump the money into something else because it involved, covering a country as big as, both in size of population and geographically, to do all those things that I talked about before, getting singles and albums into record stores, getting people to go in and buy them, all that, and getting into the charts, getting on radio stations, and there's so many different formats, which one are we going to go to with this? I'm sure you know that, when Original Sin was first released in America, it was very confusing. The record company really didn't know which way to send it because it was controversial. What You Need sort of cut through a lot better because it wasn't trying to say something. It wasn't being, subversive or politically messaging. It was just an incredible groove, very catchy groove.
It's one of the true oddities that Original Sin wasn't a massive hit in the US, given it was in many other countries around the world. It's one of the true chart oddities.
Well, the French were the first to get it. It went number one in France before anywhere else in the world. So yeah, aren't they smart?
Do you want to say the French are smart, B, from England there?
Well, my name's France.
Compliment you on something. I think the passage of time of 40 years means that when you look back at an album cover or you look back at a theme there, I feel like Chris Thomas's vision for the band was that you don't sound really like you do on record as you do live. I'd really love your next album to sound a little more live, and part of the recording was to create that feeling in the studio and have the band in the one room playing together. This sort of live feel of the cover and Michael, and I feel like they all, it's a happy confluence of ideas that 40 years later seems to do justice to an album that sounds very live and it sounds very rock. It doesn't sound as studio enhanced as maybe the Swing did. The themes being outdoor, I know, we had the Three Sisters song there. We have the Kiss the Dirt film clip. We have a lot of the footage of the band outside. I know you had some goals maybe to take them down to Kosciuszko and a few other places to potentially film them. But I feel like the whole theme works both live and visually and song-wise, and it's a credit, if you were, as you were, intrinsic behind that. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Oh, thank you. Well, it was also, it was a certain amount of happenstance too, because we couldn't do that photo shoot that I really wanted to do on location. I just simply joined the band for a week of dates around rural Victoria, and they played Shepparton one night, and I forget the towns exactly, but it was from motel to motel and theatre to theatre, and I just took photographs every night when they played, and in fact, the band were flying around in a small twin engine plane to most of these shows. I had a hire car and I was driving from one. So I remember stopping at sort of sunset on the road, and there was this purple sky, and I just took that photograph, which was the back cover.
Yes.
Beautiful
photos.
Yes.
The photograph, well, this was pre-digital. So, for instance, in the Listen Like Thieves type on the front, that's actually a bit of, I think, Jenny Morris's jacket, blurred that we just put in the type, The photograph on the inside that was taken not by me, but by what was his name? Robert Rosen, I think is his name. Took down at the not Bondi, but near there. It was one of those beaches on Sydney beaches. Beautiful shot, with the band just spaced out.
Yeah.
That could have been the cover. I mean, we had some good material to work with.
Well, it's like a headline, isn't it? It's as if it's been ripped. It's a really good typeface.
Well, it's not obvious. You have to look at it deeply to see what it is. Sometimes that can create marketing issues for some countries. Who's the band and who are they? And I think they might have had to
that's exactly
relabel it in some countries, didn't they?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So in Australia, you'll note that the Australian cover doesn't have INXS up in the top right-hand corner, but in the US and European ones, it does.
Yeah.
Japanese were the smart ones. I don't have it here, but basically, the way they did it, which is how lots of vinyl is done these days, is that there's the album cover, then there's this paper band that goes around it that has writing on it that says, INXS and Listen Like Thieves, and it's in Japanese and so forth.
Yes.
And then it's shrunk wrapped so that it's all sort of neatly contained there. So when you take your shrink wrap off, you take the paper band off, there's, it's
They did that on the Kick CD, I think, as well, with that type of wraparound thing,
Yeah, they did. I mean, when I went to Japan with the band, that was the thing that blew me away, is that the Japanese take their album covers very seriously.
Seriously.
And
Well, it's art, isn't it?
It is. And they add, translations of lyrics. And I mean, yeah. Then the guy that we were dealing with at Warner's in Japan was terrific. I'm just trying to remember his name. Kei Hayashi, I think was his name. He was their sort of marketing. He was my equivalent in the Japanese company. And he was a big INXS fan and very supportive. And, the band made 2 videos up there, Original Sin and...
She's my only one.
I'm not impressed with the back cover of the new album.
You can't read the titles. It's sort of
You can't read it. It's lost. And I don't know my husband's a graphic designer and brander as well. And sometimes what you see and what gets printed can be lost. And I got a feeling that might have been lost in the printing.
Yeah, afraid so. Look, overall, I'm fine with it, but things like that. I mean, also access to the original source material was a bit difficult, As I say, most of what I did back then was very, it wasn't digital or anything like that, so it got lost. If you've got the original cover and you look at the credits and so forth, I hand wrote all of the song titles.
You handwrote that?
Yeah, I use these Japanese calligraphy pens.
I was about to say, like between the Swing and Listen Like Thieves, they seem to have a Japanese sort of calligraphy feel to them. You've obviously just confirmed that now.
Yep, I still use them. I'm just trying to find. I've got some on my here somewhere. You don't dip them in ink. They've got ink in the handle of the pen, and you just squeeze them until the ink starts to flow through, and you've got a brush at the end. They're beautiful things to use. I've used them for lots of things over the years.
When I try explaining INXS to some of my overseas friends, I used to say, the Swing album was very Japanese influenced, with the film clips, the artwork, and I say the Listen Like These ones, very, very Australiana in terms of outdoorish, the film clips, the live sentiment, the gritty live sound. I always refer to the Swing as the Japanese album and Listen Like These as the Aussie album.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. I mean, 2 videos shot in Japan. They did a promo visit up there. And yeah, quite a lot of the ephemera that we put on the cover is either from that Japanese trip or it's stuff I bought at the local Japanese supermarket, which is...
These just come back with a copy there, B. What have you got in your hands there? Is that the original Listen Like Thieves album?
Yeah, this is the original one.
So all of that writing there that we see there, even the beautiful headings there written with that same type of, what's your handwriting?
Yeah.
Is that right there?
That's right.
Fantastic.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. And the lyrics, they're written in your handwriting as well? I can't quite say.
No.
No, that's tight.
That would be ultra commitment. There you go.
Running out of time.
No worries. Look, we don't want to keep it too much longer, but one thing I was just fascinated chatting to you, about this thing called the music business is that you are working with some other artists and things like that now, and obviously, taking a sort of an artistic sort of view to what the artist is wanting in terms of how they market themselves. Have you got an example, maybe of a band or an artist you work with at the moment and some of the marketing activities you're doing in what is a 2025 era now compared to 1985?
I'm having a lot of joy with 2 artists at the moment who are very close, both as friends and also in terms of what I think they're doing as creative people. I can't say that I've got my hand on it. I'm basically letting them do what they want to do and just helping them to get it out there. So Megan Washington is an artist that I've known and worked with now for quite some time, and so we're putting her records out on our label. The first song, Shangri-La, went out about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Her husband is a video maker, or he's a filmmaker, but he made the videos. They're stunning videos, and I don't know whether you know, but Megan and her husband Nick made a feature film based on Paul Kelly's song "How to Make Gravy" last year.
I do. It was out on Netflix, yes.
And so,
or Binge, might be on Binge, I think.
Binge, yeah. They used the same crew to make these videos for this new this new album, and this new album it's a beautiful record. The second single comes out in about 2 weeks. It's called Kidding, and then there's a third song coming out with Paul Kelly on it, and then the album comes out in, I think it's early September. I mean, I really champion Meg and her creative vision, both the songs and also the look and everything like that. But I don't, as I say, it doesn't have my hand on it because she's pretty much capable of doing it all herself.
And for some of our overseas listeners, I mean, Megan's an ARIA award winning. I think she might have some APRA Songs of the Year. I mean, she's had such a fantastic last, say, 10, 15 years here in Australia, hasn't she?
Yes, well, particularly on an international basis, because she's one of the voices on a very successful children's television series called Bluey.
Yes.
She also had one of her songs from her last album included in a very important episode of Bluey called The Sign. And since that song got exposed, it's a bit like the smaller example of what you were describing with Kate Bush, that song, which is 4 years or 5 years old, got used in Bluey, and now it's it's over 2 million streams, and it's
exposed. Yeah,
it's exposure.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that will help to raise the awareness of who she is, because she's an incredibly creative artist, and just go and listen to this new material that she's doing. It's really quite special. So there's her, and then the other one that we're also doing similar thing with is a band called Deep Sea Arcade, who put a couple of albums out 10 years ago, and then unfortunately one of the members of the band died, and Nick Mackenzie, who's the lead singer and who co-wrote all the material with Nick Weaver, who died. He's been writing and recording for years, but he's only just recently started to get his act together, so to speak, and he's just put out the first song from his forthcoming album, and he managed to find a new collaborator in Perth who has been helping him with the production and the guitar sounds and so forth. It's bloody good stuff. And the interesting thing, this is one of the wonderful things about music business these days, is that we're dealing with a whole new data intellect. Like, you can see what a song is doing on an hourly, daily basis everywhere in the world. The kind of data that we can extract out of what's going on with a song, like Meg's song Lazarus Drug for Bluey, and watching which territories it's hot in. So that, Deep Sea Arcade put out an album 10 years ago. It's still there. They've still got tens of thousands of followers. Songs off those albums are on so many playlists now that they're as active as they were 10 years ago, if not more. And obviously, if we're lucky enough to land one of those songs, into a film or TV show like Kate Bush's song did, then it'll just blow it up. Music has a lot more staying power than it ever did, thanks to streaming.
Yes, and you don't have, I mean, the sheer manufacturer and technology costs back then of, as you said, and the amount of participants to just get that final cast single worth $3 in someone's hand to be purchased was such heavy lifting, so to speak, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, this is the interesting thing. This little package here, as I say, was basically, let's take the extended mixes off Swing and put them together as a little compilation, and let's add the song Jackson that they recorded with Jenny Morris. But there's one extra thing that we did that nobody knows, because nobody listens to this anymore. I went into a studio with an engineer, and we created little bits that we put in between tracks. So at the beginning of, even before Original Sin starts, there's this little Japanese bit of dialogue that happens.
Right.
Okay. And then in between, just trying to remember.
This is on all the cassettes.
Yeah, it's on this. But nobody listens to this anymore. They listen to
I've got one now. I need to go and listen to it.
There's a kind of weird thing that we did. I mean, I presented it to the band and they loved it, and it went on. So between the end of Love Is What I Say and the beginning of Jackson, there's about 2 minutes of complete
I need to go.
rubbish. It's not the band. It's just like a montage of
like this interlude stuff.
And when it went out, the people would say, "What's that?" But it's part of the.
Was that part of you or Nick Launay?
No, that was me.
It was you.
Yeah.
Oh, you creative devil, you. So, mine's got Original Sin. I send a message. Burn for you. Dance on the jetty. Love is what I say. And melting in the sun. So you're saying that there's some secret stuff in this.
So that one doesn't have Jackson on it.
This one doesn't have Jackson on, no.
Yeah.
It does. It doesn't have it listed on there because it says bonus track.
Oh, it's a sticker, wasn't it? Yes. In the
I
corner.
haven't got a sticker.
No, well, that's
going
what I
on?
do. There's a sticker down the bottom. What does that say? On the front.
Yeah.
They had a sticker there, Jack, with the, I think at the
There's
time.
the sticker there.
I haven't got a sticker.
No, Philip's got one there showing. Yeah.
Oh, let's have a look. Oh, so you reckon my stickers fell off?
Yeah. Might be a closing question from my behalf. He might have one more, but have you been able to adapt so readily? Is it sort of just had one foot in what's coming up next, not being stubborn, but moving with the times? Has that been sort of a mantra for you, or what's been the keys to your longevity?
Well, just I'm a music fan, just like you guys are. I absolutely love music, and that's why I got into the biz. I mean, I initially just wanted to do record covers. That was really my thing, and I've managed to do quite a few along the way. But you get more and more immersed, and certainly, the change that happened for me at a very good time, because I had a young family that I was hardly ever seeing. But leaving Warner's after 17 years and starting my own business with my business partner was an amazing opportunity, and it meant that I had to learn a whole lot more about the business than just doing marketing and PR. I had to learn how it all works. Publishing wasn't exactly the most simplest thing to sort of get my head around, but I did. And yeah, but at the end of the day, it's just because I'm a music fan. I love being involved in music. It's just as simple as that, and there are certain things that really excite me, and there are certain things that I think could be really good. The unfortunate thing is that there's so many things that happen, not just in my world, but just generally, that don't ever get that exposure that we keep referring to. Things that are really good, but don't ever get to prove that they're good because they don't get the success that everybody judges things on. That's why these days I couldn't give a toss about charts. I couldn't give a toss about platinum and gold records and all that sort of shit. And I don't even care whether somebody's got 1,000 followers or 1 million followers. If it's good and I like it, then I want to, spread the word. And I think that's one of the big problems that we have these days is, on the one hand, the data is incredibly useful because it tells you lots of things that you need to know. But on the other hand, it creates a more judgmental world that we're living in now, where people go, oh, well, you haven't got any followers and your last single only got 7,000 streams. So it's too easy to be dismissive about something not being good enough because it doesn't have the numbers. Fuck the numbers, It's really, it's like an artist should only be doing what they want to do.
Yeah, I hear you, but we've spoken about this before, and for festivals and for when people are going live and doing tours, the metrics is exactly that. How many followers do you have? Because followers equates to fans nowadays.
But quality is not always linear. I mean, we've got these artists, and there are two in America that names escape me, who posthumously were more successful than they were when they were alive. It's a bit like Vincent van Gogh. There's a gentleman who died in his mid-20s, a Californian musician whose name escapes me at the moment, who's always cited as a major influence. And then there was I think Eva Cassidy as well, who had a posthumous release. I mean, I always believe, I think, Philip, rather naively, if it's a great song, eventually one day it will find an audience. And maybe now with streaming, sometimes they do,
Yeah, no, exactly. That's very true. And yeah, there's, never say die. There's always that chance that something will get that window of exposure and change its destiny. But the thing, just on festivals, the interesting thing is that we've seen a lot of festivals come and go in this market over the last 20 odd years. And obviously, it seems to me that the bigger they get, the more, the more they're in jeopardy. Yeah, and they become, sponsored and corporatized and all that sort of thing. But through it all, while all of these festivals have come and gone or, done their thing, Laneway, which has been going for about 20 years, is still, and you may or may not have been to Laneway, but it's been going all this time, and every time it's announced, you could look down the list of artists that are on it and go, I don't know any of these people. It's because they're always taking chances. They're always presenting something new. So the people go to Laneway because they know that they're going to be introduced to something that they may or may not.
Laneway is a brand people rely upon that know that are going to have a good band on.
Which, if you want, you can parallel that with John Peel. It's like if you have somebody or something that is a monitor for something that is filtering out. Yeah. Then that's a way of following things. Getting back to Countdown, that's when everybody would sit down and watch one TV show on a Sunday night, across the country. You'd have millions of people in Australia.
And you all feel the same. Yeah, it's like being at a live event, though, isn't it, really? And that's what we all love, because it does give you the tingles, doesn't it? You're at a live event. We're all in it together. We're all singing the song together. We're all watching the TV show together. You're texting your mates now. We've
probably doubled our population since Countdown existed. Yet TV audiences have fractured because we've got so many more sources of entertainment and choice,
Yeah.
The water cooler conversation at work tomorrow will be everybody talking about something different.
Yes.
They're not all looking at the same thing or experiencing the same thing.
Did you hear about our party we had, our legendary party that we had?
You posted stuff. Sorry. You made enough noise.
But what was really good is that everybody that was there for INXS were really happy that they can express about their love of INXS to one another, and they could all talk about that thing together, you know, and that's what Countdown was like. It's like, did you watch Countdown? We were loving music. Did you watch this, that? And it's just everyone's got the common thread that they can talk about.
Well, I think that's a very positive thing, and I think it's great that you're doing. You know, fandom is an interesting thing, you know, but I think that the fact that, you know, you're giving a bunch of people the opportunity to, you know, truly, you know, personally share something in a meaningful way is a good thing. There should be more of it, you know. I thought it was great. Apparently, was it last week or the week before? There was a venue in Sydney that was doing a Lord night, and she turned up at like, whoa, she's here.
Oh my God, I love that woman. Yes.
Wow.
What
Well,
a
I mean, look, I had the same got you moment or wow moment. I turned up to the party afterwards that night after our bus tour that day, and a couple of the patrons who were there said, "Oh, Hayden, look over there," and you know, Kirk from the band was there, and I was like, "Oh my."
He cried.
Well, you know, no, I wouldn't go that far. Maybe I had a little bit of a tear in the left eyeball, but I couldn't wait for B to arrive to tell her. Of which she arrived. She goes, "Yeah, I'm more than just a pretty face, you know." I thought management had sent him along because they were aware we were having this get together.
Yeah,
but he was going to come along, sort of bit of a you know, hello, meet and greet, whatever. But we had to almost kick Kirk out at the end of the night, saying, "Kirk, we got to shut up shop, mate. We got to go." We had to give him a lift home, but he had a great night. He was very giving, and it tied in nicely. And
he's a gentleman for sure.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah, very
absolutely.
nice. Yeah.
Before we go, is there anything we can plug in your world at all? You know, Philip, for our
I've already dropped in Migden Washington Deep Sea Arcade. There you go.
yeah, and something with Split Ends maybe coming up. We know, you know, obviously if you're an INXS fan, you probably like Split Ends as well around that particular area. So look forward to hearing what you're doing with them. They are the band that keep on giving, and you know, have an influence, you know, all around the world. Split Ends to this day. I know Eddie Vedder is such a big Neil Finn fan, dating back to the Split Ends days. So
Did you mention that you've got a record company still as well?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
what's that called?
My business is called Origin Music. Started it about 32 years ago with my business partner, whose name is also Philip. So we're the two Philips.
two L's or one
No,
L?
I'm one L of a guy. In fish.
Love it.
So yeah, it's a publishing business. It's a label, and we also have a theatrical licensing business, which is very successful as well. So yeah, it keeps me busy. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And the label was a bit quiet there for a while, but we certainly are more active now than we probably ever have been with the label, which is good. And it's basically just providing clients that we already have with labels, what we call label services, you know. And we set up a distribution deal with a company called ADA, which is Warner's independent digital distribution outlet. So for me, that's a bit of a bookend, you know, starting out at Warner's back in. It's fun.
How many artists have you got?
Well, the publishing company's got about 60 Australian and New Zealand writers, and the label, we've only got about a half a dozen active artists at this point. We've got some back catalogue too. There's another artist that I work with back in the Warner's days who I look after their catalogue. That's a band called 1927.
We've just announced a tour, 40th anniversary tour, I think, haven't they?
Yes.
Is it 40 already? Goodness me. I thought it was coming up to 100. Isn't it? 1927 was nearly 100 years ago.
Well, a little bit of trivia. There's a link between 1927 and Moving Pictures you mentioned earlier, wasn't it? Gary Frost, I think.
Gary Frost. Yes. Well, Gary's been a friend and a client of mine for many, many years.
Great.
So I look after his publishing and look after the 1927 catalogue. And yeah, he's one of the true gentlemen in this business. He's just such a great guy and an amazing songwriter.
And I must say, just as a parting sort of thing, I did enjoy your trip to Europe through Facebook. I felt like I sampled about 8 wines in 8 different continents and French baguettes in Paris and things. You got any European sojourns happening soon?
Well, I go to Europe every year to attend a conference, which is it's a music business conference that's on. It used to be on in Cannes, where the Cannes Film Festival is held, but now, the conference that I go to is held in Palma, in Mallorca. So I'm going there for the 4th time in October. But I also love to go to Europe because our son Michael lives there, and our grandson Jameer, who's now 8, lives there as well. So we go there for fun and business. But yes, we love looking at the world through rosé-coloured glasses.
Rosé, oh. Yes, I've had many nights in Palma. Fantastic place.
You had? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's good. I prefer it to Cannes. Cannes is a bit too sort of touristy for my. But then again, Palma is touristy, but yeah, it's different kind of touristy.
Yeah, I remember going to a place where it was just like any cobblestone road, and you opened a door and it was like going into a movie set. And there was like a cascade of roses and fruit, and it was just wow, pinch me. It was a beautiful place.
Well, you know, growing up and living in Australia, you always want to see the rest of the world. You know, I did it when I was 17, and you know, and I've been doing it every year since. And you can never get enough of it, because the one thing that's missing here in Australia is that
culture.
Well, yeah. the broader culture, yes, and a lot more interesting food and wines.
Oh.
Being an art nut, I love going to museums and galleries and photography. It's just there's always something to look at. That's the beauty once again of the media that we use now. Is that you can, if you see something you like, something you take a picture of it, you can share it straight away. You don't have to wait for slide night on Saturday night.
No. There was always a feeling of trepidation. I'm sure you went through this with your INXS filming and photos going, oh, did that, the picture come out like I hoped it would, red eye reduction type thing.
Yeah, I keep looking around it. I've got it here somewhere, but I've got, I think
An ugly photo of Michael.
Yeah, I've got a few. But the film clip for Kiss the Dirt was shot on 35mm film. And the ratio, when you make film clips, you shoot lots and lots and lots of footage, and then you edit it down to a 3-minute clip, but you might have 100 minutes of footage and you cut it down to 3 minutes. With the Kiss the Dirt video, because we were shooting on 35mm film out in the middle of nowhere, basically the filmmakers had to come up with a storyboard that was like this shot, this shot, this shot, this shot, this image, this image, this image. And then they shot each image and then cut it together. The ratio was 1:4, which was extraordinary. Exactly what they wanted to do.
You may obviously be aware that we did have Alex on the program a year ago, and he said he had to have one of the signs there that was like anti-kangaroos or whatever they changed for the American market.
Oh, that's
it was actually
right.
it was a kangaroo sign, triangular sign. And Chris said, get rid of it because it's too jingoistic. I don't want that there. So he changed it to a speed, 110 Ks or something like that.
Yeah.
And we talked about that beautiful horizon shot, in the towards the end of the clip when the bonfire was there, which was something that I think he cited yourself and himself being very proud of,
Well, yes. So what I was going to say is that when I was doing the single cover, I wanted to take, because none of the photos that I took were as brilliant as that shot, because that shot was done with a telephoto lens.
Yes.
Like the camera was, half a kilometre away to get sun setting directly behind the bonfire.
Yeah.
So I went to the film itself and I actually clipped out a strip of the film and then got one of the frames scanned.
Wow.
I've got that strip of film somewhere. It's in a box. But yeah, these you probably
It needs to come out of the box.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
amazing.
I actually think I need to archive it with the National Archives or something like that, because
you do.
I doubt that Alex probably still has, the original reels of film or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, remarkable feat that video. I mean, Alex and his team, the Meaningful Eye Contact team, did an incredible job, because it was a huge challenge to get out there.
Yeah, I mean, Alex sort of seemed to think that possibly, maybe through memory, that Chris wasn't as enamoured with the clip as he would hope. But what we said to Alex was, don't worry, 40 years later, the fans have voted, and it is right up there with, I mean, we did an episode on it. It was a reflection of just how iconic it is,
Alex and the Meaningful Eye Contact guys gifted me the storyboard, which I have here.
Yes, you've shown us. It's beautiful.
I need to probably get that properly archived, because these things deteriorate, unfortunately. So yeah.
I'm amazed that wasn't part of the actual, what do you call it, the deluxe part of the album, that wasn't put in that storyboard. Was it not talked about?
I think they'd finished, by the time Sam and I sat down and I started showing the stuff, I think they'd already put the package together. I think it was off being printed as we, But anyway, it is what it is.
Probably time for us to let you go and have a red wine, have a bite to eat. Can't thank you enough for coming on. Always love having your input and stuff like that over the journey. You've helped our podcast, in terms of just, structuring up and giving us tips to sort of try and do things a little bit better. So we've always appreciated that. And I want to just say thanks for coming on again.
My pleasure. And keep up the fight. Obviously, we all want to see the band inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but that's not the be-all and end-all, because I think the rewards are already there. It's just you'd like to see them get that sort of international acknowledgement, because they certainly deserve it.
Absolutely.
All righty.
Cheers.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Hey, this is Paul Jolly from Sydney, and this is The Big Rat.
All right, B. Well, it's great having Philip on again. We don't do recurring guests much. We always want to keep sort of, I guess, reinventing ourselves. But, in light of the Listen Like These reissue and, just the unique work that we're able to just extract, even down to just the handwriting of the songs, we never knew he did that part. We hope our listeners, could augment this with our original interview, and, we've uncovered some fresh ideas, which I think we have. Hey, B, I think we're due for a raffle soon. Have you got any thoughts on that?
I think we should, yes. I was thinking about it, Hayden. We've got some of those goodie bags left over. I don't know how much is in there, but it's definitely one of the bags that Listen Like Feeds bags. And we've got the reissue CD, the double CD.
Yep.
And we've also got the backstage pass, which is, I love my pass. So I think we can put all those three things together and $20 a ticket. What do you reckon?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'd love that. And I think there's nothing like giving out prizes and things like that. And thank you to all of those contributed management, the band, people have donated goods to us. It all goes in a very good way to listeners who support our show. Now, B, we probably going to have a little break next week and let people catch up on some of these episodes. But what we might encourage you to do, if you've enjoyed this latest Philip episode, you can go back and listen to the prequel. They were episode 68, 69, is that right?
That's correct. Good remembering, Hayden.
Yes, the wonders of editing and taking things offline. B just informed me. So there you go. But look, we had a great chat originally there, and I think again, obviously combined with these episodes, Philip, just a depth of material, a wealth of knowledge, and hopefully today's episode was a little bit varied, and I really enjoyed sort of just being able to learn a bit more about the business, because sometimes as fans we question why things happen, and sometimes they happen because of the business, and we often by separating talent and skill and musicianship, combining it with the marketing juggernaut. It's interesting how you need one to support the other. They're sort of intertwined. And in INXS to speak, you did have management working very strongly with the band, and that's probably why they were able to break down barriers. And as Philip said, just one of the hardest working bands. Relentlessly touring, recording, producing, doing media work, songwriting. To get to that level of acclaim, it was based on work ethic, talent, and management support.
Very hard working. They do need a rest, but we do need you to get off your rest and get back on stage soon.
That's right. Well, I thought we might go up something a little bit in homage to Philip, and I don't know if we did this at the time back in the day, but there was a very famous recording bee at the Countdown Music Awards in 1984-85, around that period, where INXS scooped the pool, won Album of the Year and all these different awards. Sting was out there and presenting Michael and the band with a lot of these awards. But this was the very famous night that Jenny Morris got up with Michael and the band and sung Jackson, which was a very famous old, I think, Nancy Sinatra song, and she might do it with her father, I think, back in the day. This is a great little track, something a little bit different to go out with. We'll go out with Jackson live at the Australian Countdown Music Awards. I think it's around 84-85. It's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from B. Goodbye, everybody.
Good night, Australia.
INXS Access All Areas, episode 222. Or as that famous cricket commentator would say, Richie Beno B, 222.
I like it.
I'm going to dispense with formal introduction, just say, hello, how are you? Welcome back. Good to see your face again. We spoke to Philip Mortlock last week, and we got a little extra nugget or two today, so happy to do that.
Yes, can't wait. This is going to be a big one, so I think we'll have to keep our talk short and sweet, because I think this is going to go for a good hour and a half.
Look, for those who are probably hearing this second, and obviously maybe had a chance to listen to the first one, I do know that we had a lot of fun chatting to Philip. He's always a world of interesting thoughts and dialogue. What was your sort of takeaway from last week?